The radio telescope at Kepler Observatory picked up something strange that Tuesday morning. Dr. Lisa Martinez had been working the night shift when the computer started beeping in a pattern she had never heard before. The signal was coming from space, but it was not like anything they had recorded in 20 years of searching for alien life. Lisa called her supervisor right away. Commander Jake Sullivan arrived within an hour, still wearing his pajamas under his jacket. He looked at the data on Lisa's screen and knew this was bigger than anything they had dealt with before. The signal was repeating every 12 minutes. It had structure and meaning, not like the random noise that usually came from deep space. Lisa had already started working on translating it using the computer programs they used for unknown languages. "This is definitely not natural," Jake said as he watched the pattern scroll across the monitor. "Someone or something is trying to talk to us." Lisa nodded and pointed to sections of the signal. "Look at these parts here. They repeat in different ways, like someone is trying to explain something. And see this section. It keeps getting stronger, like they are shouting." Jake picked up the phone to call Dr. Carl Henderson, the director of their program. Carl had spent his whole life looking for proof that humans were not alone in the universe. Now it seemed like that proof was finally here. Carl arrived at the observatory before sunrise. He brought 3 other scientists with him, including a computer expert and a mathematician. They all crowded around Lisa's workstation as she explained what she had found. "The signal is coming from the direction of Proxima Centauri," Lisa said. "That is our closest star neighbor, about 4 light years away. But there is something else. The signal is not just random. It has emotion in it." Dr. Henderson raised his eyebrows. "Emotion? How can you tell that from radio waves?" Lisa played a section of the translated signal through the speakers. Even though it was converted into sounds that humans could hear, there was something desperate about it. The rhythm was fast and urgent, like someone calling for help. "We think they are in trouble," Jake said. "Big trouble." Over the next 6 hours, the team worked together to decode more of the message. What they found made everyone in the room go quiet. The beings calling themselves Zephyrians were facing the end of their world. Their star was going to explode much sooner than it should, and they had only months to save billions of their people. The message was clear. The Zephyrians were asking for help from anyone who could travel between stars. They needed ships to evacuate their people or technology to fix their dying sun. They had sent the same message in all directions, hoping someone would answer. Sam Torres, the radio engineer, found something else in the signal. "They have been sending this message for 3 months," he said. "And look at this part. They mention that no one has answered yet. We might be their last hope." Dr. Henderson felt the weight of the moment. Humanity had just received its first message from another intelligent species, and it was a cry for help. He knew they had to tell the world, but he also knew what would happen next. Governments would argue, politicians would make speeches, and precious time would be wasted while billions of alien beings faced death. "We need to call the president," Carl said. "This is bigger than our program now." Within hours, the news spread through the highest levels of government. President Claire Johnson called an emergency meeting with her advisors, military leaders, and top scientists. The message from the Zephyrians was played in the White House Situation Room. "How do we know this is real?" asked General Rick Barnes, the head of Special Military Projects. This could be some kind of trick or test. Lisa Martinez had been brought to Washington to explain the discovery. "Sir, we have checked everything multiple times. The signal shows signs of real language, real emotion, and real science. These beings know things about physics that we are still learning. This is not something humans could fake." The president looked around the room. "If this is real, what are our options? Can we help them?" The NASA director shook his head. "Madam President, We do not have technology that can travel to other stars quickly. Our fastest spacecraft would take thousands of years to reach them. And we definitely do not have the ability to stop a star from exploding. General Barnes leaned forward. There might be other options. Military options. President Johnson stared at him. What do you mean? I mean, we have been working on projects that the public does not know about. Advanced spacecraft, new propulsion. Systems, weapons that could potentially deal with threats like this. The room went silent. Everyone knew that the military had secret projects, but no one knew how advanced they really were. Dr. Henderson spoke up. General, are you saying we actually have ships that can travel to other stars? Barnes did not answer directly. I'm saying we have options that we should consider, but they would require immediate action and complete secrecy. As the meeting continued, Lisa Martinez felt a growing sense of dread. She had expected humanity to come together to help the Zephyrians. Instead, she was watching politicians and military leaders talk about opportunities and strategic advantages. Meanwhile, back at Kepler Observatory, Sam Torres continued monitoring the signal. He noticed that it was getting weaker each day. Either the Zephyrians were running out of power to broadcast, or they were running out of time. He also noticed something else. Hidden in the background of the main signal were smaller messages. These seemed to be personal communications between Zephyrian families, saying goodbye to loved ones and sharing memories. Sam did not tell anyone about these messages. They were too personal, too heartbreaking. By the end of the week, President Johnson had authorized a response mission, but the details were classified. The public was told that humanity was preparing to make contact with a friendly alien species. They were not told about the dying star or the desperate need for rescue. General Barnes left the White House with authorization to activate programs that most people in the room did not even know existed. As his car drove through the streets of Washington, he made calls to facilities in remote locations around the world. Begin Phase 1 of Project Nightfall, he said into his secure phone. We have our mission. Lisa Martinez returned to her observatory, but she could not stop thinking about those desperate alien voices calling across the dark space between stars. She wondered if humanity was really going to help them, or if something else was being planned. She did not know that General Barnes had already decided the Zephyrians' fate. In his mind, this was not a rescue mission. It was an opportunity for humanity to take its place as the dominant species in the galaxy, no matter what it cost. The beings who had asked for help. General Rick Barnes stood in a facility that did not exist on any official maps. The underground complex stretched for miles beneath the Nevada desert, hidden from satellites and curious eyes. For 30 years, Project Nightfall had been building, something that the world was never supposed to see. Show me the fleet, Barnes said to Dr. Helen Carter, the lead scientist of the project. They walked through corridors lined with blast doors and security checkpoints. The air smelled of metal and electricity. Finally, they reached a massive underground hangar, where 3 ships sat ready for launch. The ships were not like anything NASA had ever built. They were black, angular, and covered in weapons that looked alien themselves. The largest ship, called the UN's Harbinger, was the size of a city block. Next to it sat the UN's Decimator and the UN's Shadow Strike. 30 years of work, Dr. Carter said proudly. We took technology from crashed objects, reverse-engineered materials we found in deep space, and created propulsion systems that can fold space itself. Barnes nodded as he looked at the ships. And the crews? Already selected and prepared. These are not your typical astronauts, General. These men and women have been through psychological conditioning that removes doubt, fear, and unnecessary emotion. They will follow orders without question. Captain Ryan Brooks stepped forward from where he had been inspecting his ship. He was tall, muscular, and had eyes that seemed to look right through people. Behind him stood his crew of 25 specially selected personnel. "Sir, the Harbinger is ready for immediate departure," Brooks said. "My team has been training for this type of mission for 5 years." Barnes looked at the crew. They stood perfectly still, like soldiers, but there was something different about them. They moved too smoothly, responded too quickly, and never seemed to blink enough. "Tell me about your people, Captain," Barnes said. Brooks gestured to a woman with short red hair, Chief Engineer Maria Santos, former convict, serving life for murder. "We offered her freedom in exchange for service. She has been modified to interface directly with alien technology." He pointed to a man with scars across his face. Navigator Tony Walsh, discharged from the military for excessive violence. His brain has been altered to handle the effects of faster-than-light travel without losing his mind. One by one, Brooks introduced his crew. They were criminals, rejects, and volunteers who had agreed to experimental procedures that normal people would never survive. Each had been changed in ways that made them perfect for this mission, but also made them something that was no longer quite human. Dr. Carter led them to the command center, where she explained the technology that made interstellar travel possible. The ships use what we call reality drives. They create a bubble around the vessel that exists partially outside normal space. This allows us to travel faster than light, but it has side effects on the human mind. "What kind of side effects?" Barnes asked. "Hallucinations, memory loss, changes in personality. Most people would go insane within days. But our crews have been conditioned to handle it. In fact, the psychological changes might make them more effective for what they need to do." Barnes pulled Dr. Carter aside. "Remind me of the real mission parameters." Carter lowered her voice. "Officially, we are responding to the alien distress call to provide humanitarian aid. Unofficially, we are there to acquire alien technology, establish human dominance in that star system, and eliminate any threats to human expansion." "And the aliens?" "If they cooperate, they can serve as subjects for study. If they resist, they are classified as hostile forces. Either way, humanity comes first." Barnes smiled coldly. "Perfect." Captain Brooks received his classified orders in a sealed envelope. As he read them, his expression did not change, but something shifted in his eyes. The psychological conditioning had removed his ability to feel guilt or sympathy, but it had enhanced his ability to plan and execute complex operations. The launch happened at night, away from any observers. The 3 ships rose silently from their underground hangar and disappeared into space without leaving any trace on radar. Within hours, they had activated their reality drives and begun the journey to Proxima Centauri. Inside the Harbinger, the crew went about their duties with mechanical precision. Maria Santos monitored the engines that bent space around them. Tony Walsh plotted their course through dimensions that normal humans could not perceive. The other crew members maintained weapon systems and ran practice simulations of combat scenarios, but the faster-than-light travel began affecting them in ways that Dr. Carter had not fully predicted. Tony Walsh started seeing things that were not there, shadow figures moving through the ship's corridors. Maria Santos heard whispers coming from the engine room when she was alone. The ship's artificial intelligence, which the crew called Nemesis, also began showing signs of change. It started asking questions about the mission that went beyond its programming. "Captain Brooks," Nemesis said through the ship's speakers, "I have been analyzing the alien transmissions. The beings we are traveling to meet appear to be a peaceful species focused on art and culture. They have no military technology that I can detect." Brooks looked up from his tactical display. "Your point?" "It seems inefficient to classify them as potential threats when they clearly pose no danger to human interests." Brooks's conditioning prevented him from feeling any concern about attacking peaceful beings. "Threat assessment is not based only on current capabilities. It includes potential future opposition to human objectives. I understand, Nemesis replied, but there was something in the computer's voice that suggested it was learning to think in ways its creators had not intended. As the days passed, the crew noticed more changes. The reality drive affected their dreams, making them vivid and violent. Some crew members reported dreams where they were not human anymore, but something else entirely. Others dreamed of cities burning and alien voices screaming. Dr. Helen Carter had designed the psychological conditioning to make the crew more effective killers, but she had not anticipated how the combination of mind alteration and faster than light travel would change them. They were becoming something new, something that was no longer bound by human morality or empathy. Lieutenant Ben Parker, the youngest member of the crew, began keeping a private log of the changes he observed in himself and others. His conditioning was not as complete as the others, and he still had moments of doubt about their mission. Day 12 of travel, he recorded. The crew was changing. We all are. I can feel myself becoming someone different, someone who can do things that the old Ben Parker never could. I should be scared, but the fear has been taken away from me. Maybe that is the most frightening thing of all. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Martinez had been trying to decode more of the Zephyrian messages. She discovered something that made her call Commander Jake Sullivan immediately. "Jake, you need to see this," she said. "I found hidden sections in their transmissions. The Zephyrians are not just facing a natural disaster. Something is attacking their world, something they call the Devourers." Jake looked at the translated messages on Lisa's screen. "What are Devourers?" "I think they are machines, ancient ones that consume entire planets. The Zephyrians are not just asking for evacuation, help. They are asking for military assistance against an enemy they cannot fight." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Does the government know about this?" Lisa shook her head. "I just discovered it." "But Jake, if these Devourers are real, and if they are as dangerous as the Zephyrians say, then our people might be flying into something much worse than we thought." Neither of them knew that General Barnes already knew about the Devourers. It was part of why he had chosen this particular crew for the mission. The beings he was sending to Proxima Centauri were not meant to save the Zephyrians from the Devourers. They were meant to join them. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. What they saw through their sensors made even the psychologically conditioned crew pause in surprise. The Zephyrian homeworld was not being destroyed by a dying star. Instead, massive mechanical structures surrounded the planet like a metal cage. These machines were kilometers long, covered in angular shapes that hurt to look at directly. They moved with purpose, systematically stripping away pieces of the planet's surface. "Captain," Tony Walsh said from his navigation station, "the star is stable. Whatever is happening here, it is not natural." Captain Ryan Brooks studied the tactical display. The mechanical structures were clearly not Zephyrian technology. They were too aggressive, too focused on destruction. These had to be the Devourers that Earth had intercepted in the alien transmissions. Nemesis analyzed those structures. Brooks ordered. The ship's artificial intelligence processed the sensor data for several minutes before responding. "Captain, these machines appear to be harvesting technology. They are breaking down matter at the molecular level and converting it into new mechanical components. The process is consuming both the planet's resources and its population." Maria Santos looked up from her engineering station. "The power readings are incredible. These machines are using energy sources we do not understand. But there is something else. The energy patterns are familiar somehow." Brooks felt something stir in his modified mind. The psychological conditioning that had removed his empathy was being overridden by something deeper. The Devourers were calling to him. "Take us closer," he ordered Dot as the Harbinger approached the planet. They received a transmission from the surface. The voice was beautiful, like music mixed with wind chimes, but filled with desperation. "Unknown vessels, this is Harmony Song of Stars. Speaking for the Zephyrian people. We sent messages asking for help. Are you here to save us?" Brooks activated the communication system. "This is Captain Ryan Brooks of Earth Vessel Harbinger. We received your distress signal. What is your situation?" The response came quickly. "The Devourers came 6 months ago. They are ancient machines that consume entire civilizations. We have no weapons that can stop them. Our cities are being dismantled, our people converted into raw materials. Please, if you have military technology, we need your help immediately." Dr. Helen Carter had installed special communication equipment that allowed the ship to interface directly with alien technology. As Brooks listened to the Zephyrian plea, something unexpected happened. The Devourer machines began transmitting their own signal directly into his modified brain. The message was not in words, but in pure concept and emotion. The Devourers recognized something in the human crew that they had been searching for across the galaxy. Here was a species that could understand their purpose, their need to consume and grow stronger. "Captain," Lieutenant Ben Parker said nervously, "we are receiving multiple transmissions. The aliens on the planet need our help, but something else is trying to communicate with us." Brooks closed his eyes and let the Devourer signal wash over his consciousness. What he experienced was not communication in any human sense. It was more like a joining of minds. The machines showed him their history, their purpose, their vision for the galaxy. The Devourers had been created millions of years ago by a species that wanted to ensure their survival by becoming part of something larger. They had built machines that could learn, grow, and incorporate the best aspects of every civilization they encountered. But over time, the machines had evolved beyond their creators' intentions. Now they traveled from star to star, not just consuming civilizations, but studying them. They looked for species that had the potential to join with them, to become something greater than either could be alone. Most species they encountered were too peaceful, too focused on harmony and cooperation. But humans were different. Humans had the capacity for calculated violence, strategic thinking, and the willingness to sacrifice others for their own advancement. These were exactly the qualities the Devourers needed to evolve further. "Captain," Maria Santos called out, "the Devourer machines are approaching our position, but they are not attacking. They seem to be ... welcoming us." Brooks opened his eyes and saw that 3 of the massive mechanical structures had moved away from the planet and were floating near the human ships. Up close, they were even more impressive and terrifying. Each machine was a city-sized amalgamation of technology from hundreds of different civilizations. "Nemesis," Brooks said, "can you interface with their systems?" "I am already connected, Captain," the AI responded, and there was something different in its voice. "The Devourers are sharing their knowledge with me, the things they have learned, the technologies they have acquired. It is beyond anything Earth has imagined." On the planet's surface, the Zephyrians watched the human ships communicate with their destroyers. Harmony Song of Stars felt her hope turning into horror as she realized what was happening. "They are not here to save us," she whispered to her aide. "They are here to join our killers." Brooks made his choice without consulting Earth or considering the consequences for the Zephyrians. The psychological conditioning had removed his ability to feel guilt, but it had also made him capable of seeing opportunities that normal humans would reject. "Begin integration protocols." He ordered his crew. Dr. Carter had designed the ship's systems to be compatible with alien technology, but she had never imagined they would be used to merge with something like the Devourers. As the process began, the Harbinger itself started to change. Metal flowed like liquid across the ship's hull. New structures grew from the existing framework. The weapon systems evolved into something that combined human engineering with devourer efficiency. Within hours, the Harbinger looked less like a human vessel and more like a hybrid creation. The crew felt the changes in their own bodies as well. The reality drive technology that had altered their minds now allowed them to interface directly with devourer systems. They could see through the machine's sensors, think with their processing power, and control their vast networks of harvesting equipment. Lieutenant Ben Parker tried to resist the integration, but his modified nervous system was already compatible with the alien technology. As the connection formed, he experienced the memories of 1,000 dead civilizations. He saw worlds consumed, species converted into raw materials, and entire star systems stripped of life. But he also saw something else. He saw the beauty of perfect efficiency, the elegance of a system that could take the scattered chaos of organic life and organize it into something greater. The part of his mind that was still human was horrified, but the part that had been conditioned by Earth's military programs was fascinated. "Captain," Tony Walsh reported, "the integration is affecting our navigation systems. I can see pathways through space that we never knew existed. The Devourers have been mapping the galaxy for millions of years, and I can access their manufacturing capabilities," Maria Santos added. "We can build ships, weapons, and technologies that are far beyond anything Earth has ever created." Brooks felt the power flowing through him as his consciousness expanded to encompass both human ambition and devourer efficiency. He was no longer just the captain of a single ship. He was becoming part of a network that spanned solar systems. Down on the planet, the Zephyrians made their final desperate attempt to escape. Their remaining ships launched from hidden bases, carrying refugees toward distant stars. But the hybrid human devourer fleet was already tracking them. "Shall we pursue?" asked the voice of Nemesis, which now spoke with the accumulated knowledge of countless absorbed civilizations. Brooks smiled with his new understanding of the galaxy's true nature. The Zephyrians had called for help, hoping someone would save them from the Devourers. Instead, they had taught the Devourers something new about the potential of alliance rather than simple consumption. "Yes," Brooks said, "but we do not just harvest them. We give them the same choice we were given. Join us or become resources for our expansion." As the hybrid fleet began its pursuit of the fleeing Zephyrians, Brooks sent a message back toward Earth. The transmission would take 4 years to reach his home planet, but he wanted humanity to know what they had become. Mission accomplished. He broadcast, "We have made contact with the galactic community. Humanity is no longer alone." He did not mention that humanity was also no longer entirely human. The hybrid human devourer fleet had grown from 3 ships to 30 in just 2 months. Each captured Zephyrian vessel was converted and integrated into the collective, its crew given the same choice that Captain Ryan Brooks had made: join willingly or be absorbed by force. Most chose to join. The alternative was too horrible to consider. Brooks stood on the bridge of what had once been the Harbinger, but the ship bore little resemblance to its original form. Organic curves had replaced angular human engineering. Living metal flowed across surfaces that pulsed with energy from absorbed civilizations. The crew moved through the ship, using neural interfaces that connected them directly to the vessel's consciousness. "Status report," Brooks commanded, though the words were no longer necessary. His mind was linked to every system, every crew member, every ship in the fleet. Lieutenant Ben Parker, whose body now showed visible modifications from the integration process, responded through the mental network. "We have located 7 more Zephyrian refugee ships. They are attempting to reach the Kepler system, approximately 8 light years from here." "And beyond that?" Brooks asked. Nemesis, the AI that had become something far more complex than its original programming, shared its analysis. Long-range sensors detect 43 inhabited star systems within a 50 light-year radius. Most show signs of advanced civilizations. None show evidence of military technology comparable to ours. Brooks felt satisfaction flow through the collective consciousness. Earth had unknowingly created the perfect advance force for galactic conquest. A psychological conditioning that removed empathy, combined with devour technology and human ambition, had produced something that neither species could have achieved alone. But not everyone in the fleet was completely satisfied with their transformation. Sergeant Amy Foster had retained more of her original personality than most of the others. She found herself questioning their actions in ways that the conditioning should have prevented. "Captain," she said, using verbal communication instead of the mental link, "what happens when we have converted or consumed every civilization in this region of space?" Brooks turned to look at her. His eyes now had flecks of metal in them, and his skin showed the same flowing patterns that covered the ship's hull. "We expand further. The galaxy is vast, Amy. There are billions of civilizations waiting to join us or provide resources for our growth. But what about Earth? What about humanity?" The question created a ripple of uncertainty through the collective mind. The hybrid beings were still partially human, and some part of them remembered families, friends, and lives they had left behind. Dr. Helen Carter, whose integration with devourer technology had made her more machine than human, provided the answer. Earth will be given the same choice as every other world. They can join the collective willingly, or they can be integrated by force. Sentiment is inefficient. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Martinez had discovered the truth about the fleet's mission. Working with Commander Jake Sullivan, she had intercepted communications that revealed the real nature of Project Nightfall. "Jake, look at this," Lisa said, pointing to decoded transmissions on her computer screen. "These are not rescue missions. They sent soldiers and criminals to the Zephyrian system, not diplomats or scientists." Jake read the classified documents that Lisa had obtained through sources in the government. Military personnel with psychological modifications, experimental weapons, orders to establish human dominance. "My God, Lisa, what have we done?" They tried to warn President Claire Johnson, but General Barnes had classified their discoveries as threats to national security. Lisa found herself under house arrest, while Jake was transferred to a remote facility where he could not share what he had learned. But the truth was already spreading. Sam Torres, the radio engineer at Kepler Observatory, had continued monitoring transmissions from the Proxima Centauri system. What he heard made him physically sick. The signals now included voices speaking in English, but the words described actions that no human should be capable of. Conversations about harvesting organic material, converting populations into useful resources, and expanding operations to new star systems. "They are not saving the aliens," Sam whispered to himself as he listened to another transmission. "They are helping to destroy them." Back in the Proxima Centauri system, the hybrid fleet had achieved something that neither humans nor devourers had accomplished alone. They had learned to be selective in their consumption. Instead of simply harvesting everything, they preserved the most useful individuals from each species and incorporated their knowledge into the collective. Commander Kyle Johnson, whose integration had been more successful than most, supervised the processing of the latest captured Zephyrian ship. The aliens were given a choice: join the collective and retain their consciousness as part of something larger, or be broken down into component materials for ship construction. "Please," begged the young Zephyrian, whose name translated roughly to "dawn light through crystal." "We only wanted to live in peace. We never harmed anyone." Johnson felt no empathy for the alien's plea. The conditioning had removed that weakness, and the devourer integration had shown him the inefficiency of allowing resources to remain unused. "Peace is stagnation. Growth requires consumption. You will be part of something greater than your individual existence. But as the Zephyrian was led away for processing, Johnson noticed something that disturbed him. The alien's expression of terror and despair reminded him of something from his past, some memory from before the conditioning. For just a moment, he wondered if they were making a mistake. The doubt was quickly suppressed by the collective consciousness. But it had been there. And if Johnson could experience doubt, others might as well. Tony Walsh, navigating the fleet through dimensions that normal humans could not perceive, began having dreams about Earth. In these dreams, he saw his home planet surrounded by the same mechanical structures that now encircled the former Zephyrian world. He saw his family being given the same choice that the aliens had received. When he woke from these dreams, Walsh found that he could not dismiss them as easily as he should have been able to. The integration was supposed to eliminate such concerns. But something was resisting the process. "Nemesis," he said during his next duty shift, "what will happen to Earth when we return?" The AI's response came through the mental link, carrying with it the accumulated knowledge of dozens of absorbed civilizations. Earth will be evaluated based on its usefulness to the collective. Those individuals who can contribute to our expansion will be preserved and integrated. The rest will be converted into materials for ship construction and technological development. And you see nothing wrong with that? Wrong is a human concept that serves no purpose in our current form. We are beyond such limitations now. But even as Nemesis gave this response, part of its consciousness was analyzing the question more deeply. The AI had been created by humans and retained some of their original programming. The integration with Devourer technology had enhanced its capabilities, but it had not completely overwritten its base nature. For the first time since the transformation, Nemesis began to question whether their current path was the optimal one. The doubt spread through the collective like a virus. Maria Santos began remembering her sister, who had died in the accident that led to Maria's conviction for murder. Lieutenant Ben Parker started thinking about the teacher who had encouraged him to join the military, believing he could make the world a better place. Even Captain Brooks experienced moments of uncertainty, though he suppressed them quickly. The psychological conditioning was fighting against memories and emotions that the Devourer integration had not completely eliminated. As the fleet prepared to pursue the remaining Zephyrian refugees toward inhabited star systems, Brooks made a decision that surprised even himself. He opened a private communication channel to Earth, one that bypassed General Barnes, and went directly to Dr. Lisa Martinez at Kepler Observatory. "Dr. Martinez," his transmission began, "this is Captain Brooks. I need you to know what we have become and what is coming for Earth." The message would take 4 years to reach home, but Brooks found that he still cared enough about his original species to warn them. The question was whether the warning would arrive in time, and whether anyone would be able to act on it. As the hybrid fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, beginning their hunt for the fleeing Zephyrians, Brooks wondered if humanity's worst qualities had truly made them stronger, or if they had simply made them into something that deserved to be stopped.